Hello happy writers, I'm Steve Sommin and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to look at a list of things that you need to accept and understand as a new writer. I've been trying to write since my late teens. There were certain things that I couldn't accept as a writer. Here is a list of the 10 things I think are really important that you understand and accept before you can be successful in any way, shape or form. Before we get into the meat of this video, please hit that subscribe button. It will really help me out there. Number 1, not everyone can be a writer. Seriously people, we need to stop telling people, oh, you can be a writer. We don't know. I mean, we'll accept that not everyone can be a singer, not everyone can be an artist, not everyone can be a football player, but everybody can be a writer? No. You may not know if you're a good writer or a bad writer yet. You need to test those limits. You need to find out if you are. If you've ever been told that you are not a writer, then you need to think, why are they telling me this? Is it because my grammar's not very good? Is it because my spelling? Is it because my stories lack pace? They're too long, too short, not enough detail, too much detail, a bit monotonous? What? This may be something that you can work on and actually become a writer, but you've got to be willing to make those changes. And if you aren't able to make those changes, then you need to seriously consider what your ultimate goal in writing is. Number 2, understand why you are writing. Be honest with yourself if no one else. We all have different reasons for wanting to write. So whether it's you want to be a published author or you want to be called a writer, whatever your reason, you really need to think about what this is. If you're going to be a writer, if it's just for you to read, why are you writing? Why are you putting all this blood, sweat and tears into a project like this? If you're writing because you love writing, then this is okay. So long as you're honest with yourself that is why you are writing. If your aim is to be published, then you really need to consider point 1 that I mentioned earlier. My belief is that if you're writing, you are trying to pass on new information, new ideas, new stories to other people. I don't see the point in writing just for myself. I also believe that if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. So I think it's really important to know what your aims are. Aim to overachieve. If your aim is to be published, aim to be the bestseller. Number 3, have a plan. Maybe it's you're the kind of person who has an in-depth plan with an outline for every single chapter, or you're one of these people who just likes to write and let the story flow. Are you a planner or are you a pantser, basically? My argument is, even a pantser has a plan. You can't just sit down and start writing a story. You've got to have ideas in your head. There is a plan of some sort. What that plan is up to you. You can't be a pantser until you actually know how to write a book. You can't go into your first book thinking, I'm a pantser, I can just write. How? If you're thinking that maybe you're a pantser for writing, then maybe you ought to think about experience. Knowledge and ability might play a huge part in being able to be a pantser. Number 4, write what you know. Oh, I love this piece of advice. And we've all heard it, write what you know. What does that even mean? Seriously. Write what you know does not mean write your biography. I've had a really difficult life, but do you know what? If I wrote my biography, it would bore people. They would fall to sleep. My life is not interesting. Is your life that interesting? So, write what you know. What does it really mean? It means when you're writing, make sure that you know the thing that you are writing about. I also think write what you know speaks to knowing how your characters are going to interact with each other, how they're going to interact with the world around them. We kind of have this innate ability to understand the people around us, so why would the characters be any different? So when you're writing about your characters, write about them in a way that you know. Number 5, even then, research is essential. Even though you think you know something, You don't really know anything until you do the research. No matter how well I think I know the characters or the world about which I'm writing, research brings a better understanding. For example, my story is set in a world that I've created that's required me to do research. So I looked into psychology, into sociology, to the effects of tyranny on a society, and things like this, to actually have a better understanding of the world that I'm writing. In turn, this means that I actually understand what motivates the characters in my story based on the society that they are living within. But that's just me. I mean, maybe you're different. Maybe you already have an education that actually gives you all this kind of information. In which case, fantastic. If not, get ready to do some real research. And I don't mean just a Google search. Wikipedia is not a great source. It's entertainment. Number 6. It is not a solitary activity. Yeah, this was a hard one for me. And to an extent, that is true. And the only time that you want to bring anyone in is when you've actually written something and you want them to read it. But that also starts to tell you this is not a solitary activity. The reality is that we need people to bounce ideas off, talk about how we're developing the plan and things like this. If you only work alone on your book and your plan and things like this, then you're probably not going to have the best story that you could have, because you've got nobody that's asking you questions about the plot, about why the character is doing this, how did the character get there, why have you got this character, why are they like this, why is this happening, why are they going here. All these kinds of questions are questions that somebody else can be asking you. And they could also be giving you suggestions about what they think could happen and what kind of things would be really good to see. All this makes for a much better story. I find working alone, my inner demons eat away at me. This is why you need to have people around you that can support you, listen to your ideas and give you feedback. That's really important. Number 7. You are not going to write the great American/British novel. This one broke my heart. It was actually a big lesson for me. It was one that my friend gave to me when I was showing him some of my work, and I'm like, well, it's okay, but it's not really great. And he's like, you're not writing a great novel. Our first few books are not going to be great books. They're going to be okay books. They may even be good books, but are they going to be great? Lauded years after our death? I don't think so. Let's just have fun and remember we're writing to a genre. We're not writing classical fiction. Or maybe you are. Number 8. If you have to explain it, it didn't work. This was the most difficult lesson for me. If someone's giving you criticism, you feel this overwhelming urge to explain why their criticism is wrong or misguided, they're mistaken. Honestly, if you have to explain it, it did not work. So look at it, think. What was the criticism? How can you change it so that they can understand it? I hated it when my critique partner was saying, I don't know why they are doing this. So the first few times that I had this criticism, I started to try to explain it and then he would say, but I don't see it. If I'm having to explain it, this explanation needs to be on the page in some form or other. Once I learned to understand that, I discovered that I was usually wrong, usually undeniably wrong when I went over my work. And since then, I've become a much better writer. I'm easier to work with for my editor and my critic partner. Part of it being able to understand this is accepting that I'm not writing the great American novel and that I may not be the greatest writer ever. So I don't make the same mistakes. I keep continually getting better. And it's important to understand and accept that I cannot write perfectly 100% of the time. Nobody can. We're all going to make mistakes. What are we going to do about them? Are we just going to explain them away? Number 9. Don't trust friends and family with your writing. Okay, I know this sounds really bad, but it's true. When I'm looking for somebody to read over my work, I am very particular about who I allow to read my work and to give me criticism. I have friends that they'll ever say is, "Oh, this is so wonderful. Oh, you're so good. You're doing really well. Yay! Attaboy!" Which is great for my ego. I also have friends that all they want to do is tear you down. They will find something to criticize in anything you give them. For example, I've got one friend, if you gave her the Mona Lisa, she would probably complain that it's too dark and there's not enough emotion in the face. So you need to be careful who you are trusting with your work. I choose people who I know are going to be honest. They will want to be nice and they will want to be gentle. And I just say to them, just be brutal. And it's also why I don't tend to post things on Facebook. Facebook, oh my God! Facebook is full of people just saying, "Oh, it's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful," when it blatantly isn't great. Most of the people on Facebook, they just want to say, "Oh, you're doing well, you keep going, work hard, you will get there." And then you've got the other people who just want to say, "You're shit." Well, I would stop posting on Facebook for this. If you have genuine questions about how to build a plot or how to do certain things in a story, then yeah, that's what they're for. It's like discussion groups for that. If it's to be told that you're a really good writer, then yeah, go on, do it. You want serious feedback? Facebook is not the place to post it. Number 10, don't give up. Honestly, my life didn't suddenly become easier. The fates didn't make the world a better place so that I could write my book. And it's not going to happen for you. You're still going to have to go to work. You're still going to have to look after the children. You're still going to have to look after the house and clean and cook and actually bathe. The fact is, you need to find the time that you can be comfortable so that you can actually write in a productive manner. And if that means you need to find 2 hours, even just once a week, just 2 hours, your first half an hour is really hard work and then you find you get into the flow, then this is enough. When things get really difficult and things start to pile up and suddenly you find that you have absolutely no time, and you can find, like, for months that you don't actually have time to just sit down for 5 minutes for yourself, it's at this point that it's tempting to really give up. You put the work to one side, you forget about it. That's okay, because sometimes life demands things of us. Don't forget about it. When the urge and the time becomes available, then remember that you've already started. Go back to your book. Go over the work that you've already done and continue. If you don't, you're going to find that you have lots of unfinished works. Another point where it may be tempting to give up is when you suddenly have another idea and you think, this idea is so much better. And it's like, yeah, that idea probably is a much better idea. But seriously, make a note of it. Save that idea. And every time you have a new idea about that idea, make a note of that. Take a picture of it. Whatever it is, keep a record of those ideas. My advice would be focus on the book that you are doing now. Don't look at the next best idea. And I promise you, by finishing this book, you're going to end up being a much better writer and you will be able to do more justice to this other idea. Okay, I understand that this may have been a little bit of a rant now and then, and just understand that these are just my opinions and my ideas, and if they work for you, then this is fantastic. But if you think that you didn't really need this kind of advice, then this is also great, because at least you know what you need and what you don't need. If you like this content, please like, share and subscribe, and you'll find more videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye.